Why is this of a big concern? And we'll have to deal with more of this next week on the program. There was an article saying that former Facebook employees were saying that the views of conservative posts had been suppressed and those of lesser important liberal issues boosted, all in the name of a vague thing called community standards. And then there was the announcement this week of U.S. internet giants Facebook, Twitter, Google, and Microsoft Corporation, where they pledged to tackle online hate speech in less than 24 hours as a part of a joint commitment with the European Union to combat the use of social media by terrorists. They believe that beyond national laws, which criminalize hate speech, you have a problem. Facebook and other such pages as Twitter go internationally. So they believe there is a need to ensure such activity by internet users, that it's expeditiously reviewed online by intermediaries and social media platforms. But it all rests on fungible definitions of hate and terrorism, all in the name of a vague thing called community standards. What's the problem? The problem is the gatekeepers of media, both in Europe and Britain and the United States, have been proud for decades that they were the gatekeepers, and they tried to maintain an aura of impartiality. However, that has been exposed, and now the gatekeepers are being watched by other gatekeepers, just as people were able to catch the flaw in Katie Couric's new documentary and point out that this was a deliberate attempt to slant things in a particular direction without really saying anything. It was how the cutting was done. But here's the problem. If people have these biases, and see in Europe right now, the way they're trying to maintain order is to come up with this elaborate code of what people can say and not say under the guise of being able to uphold the rights of other people. So the question is then, if we're going to prohibit hate speech on the internet, what is hate speech? Well, they'll say something like, well, it demeans a religious group, or it demeans this, or it does something like that. But what does that mean? And this is where everything becomes hideously subjective. And as we saw with Facebook already, people tend to inject their own biases into who can speak and who can't speak. So, for example, if Christians are being beaten up in asylum homes in Germany by Muslims, can we say that? Or is that hate speech against Muslims? And you see what begins to happen as you begin to try to fight hate speech. Suddenly, you're actually fighting free speech in and of itself. And that is why any effort to curtail that, other than direct overt threats to violence, ultimately begin to curtail freedom of speech, because everyone begins to be afraid of what they say, or they simply won't be permitted to say it. And one group of people gets to speak their mind, while the other groups are forced to shut up. That is not what a free society is all about. You see what's happened because of the internet and talk radio and everything else like that. The free speech horse has suddenly gotten out of the barn and out of the control of the gatekeepers. And now the gatekeepers, both media and political, are determined they're going to try to put the horse back in. Well, that's something we just mustn't allow to happen. That horse is just having too much fun roaming around the countryside. And unfortunately, as much as I detest it, even hate speech has to be included in freedom of speech. Otherwise, there is no freedom of speech, because one person's hate speech is another person's political viewpoint. We're at SteelOnSteel.com. I'm John Lefter. The program is Steel on Steel.